The ability to focus is not an innate trait, but a skill that is built through repeated practice and intentional structuring of attention. The brain's prefrontal cortex is the key region responsible for directing attention, controlling impulses, and sustaining goal-directed behavior. When you concentrate on a single task, neurons in this area fire together, forming strong neural pathways that make it easier to maintain focus in the future. Conversely, when attention is constantly divided, these circuits remain weak, making it harder to sustain deep engagement. The brain adapts to the patterns you create, which means that the way you practice attention has a direct impact on your ability to concentrate over time. Single tasking, or dedicating your attention to one task at a time, is essential for building and strengthening these circuits. Each time you allow yourself to fully engage without interruption, your brain reinforces the neural connections that support sustained attention. In contrast, multitasking forces the brain to constantly switch between tasks, creating a phenomenon known as attentional residue. Part of your mind remains focused on the previous task even after you shift to a new one, reducing cognitive efficiency and making it difficult to reach deeper levels of focus. Over time, habitual multitasking can train your brain to operate in a fragmented state, limiting your ability to perform complex or creative work. The concept of time blocking is particularly effective in training single-task focus. By setting aside dedicated periods for uninterrupted work, you provide your brain with a stable environment to engage fully with a specific objective. During these blocks, it is crucial to remove or minimize external distractions, such as notifications, phone alerts, or noisy environments. Every external interruption forces the prefrontal cortex to reset and refocus, which consumes cognitive energy and diminishes overall productivity. Structured focus sessions allow the brain to build momentum and maintain a coherent stream of neural activity, which is essential for high-quality thinking and problem-solving. Attention is also strengthened by the deliberate use of progressive challenges. Engaging in tasks that are slightly beyond your current skill level pushes the brain to allocate more resources and form stronger connections. This process of gradually increasing difficulty trains neural circuits to sustain focus even under cognitive strain. It is the combination of dedicated time, minimized distraction, and incremental challenge that produces the most effective training for attention. Environmental cues play a significant role in supporting single-task focus. Visual simplicity, organized workspaces, and clear goals help signal to the brain that a particular task deserves priority. The brain is highly responsive to patterns and context. Repeated exposure to a distraction-free environment primes neural circuits to enter a focused state more efficiently. Conversely, cluttered or overstimulating environments can trigger diffuse attention and reduce the ability to maintain prolonged focus. Over time, the consistent practice of single-task focus reshapes the brain's architecture. Neural pathways associated with sustained attention become more efficient, reducing the effort required to enter deep work states. Tasks that once felt mentally exhausting can become more manageable, and your capacity for concentration increases. This is not merely a short-term benefit, but a long-term adaptation, as the brain internalizes the patterns of attention you reinforce, making high-level focus a trainable and scalable skill. Dopamine is a central neuromodulator that plays a critical role in motivation, focus, and productivity. It is often misunderstood as simply a pleasure chemical, but its primary function is to drive goal-directed behavior and reinforce actions that lead to progress. Dopamine levels increase not just when you achieve a reward, but when you anticipate it or make incremental steps toward it. This is why breaking tasks into smaller, achievable components is so effective. Each completed step triggers a dopamine signal, reinforcing the behavior and creating a sense of forward momentum. The brain is wired to pursue progress, and dopamine is the key chemical that signals which behaviors are worth sustaining over time. One of the most important principles of dopamine and productivity is that it responds to prediction errors. If an outcome is better than expected, dopamine spikes, reinforcing the associated behavior. If the outcome is worse than expected, dopamine decreases, reducing motivation. This dynamic is crucial for understanding why tasks can feel easier or harder depending on how they are framed and approached. By structuring your work so that you can consistently achieve small wins, You create repeated positive prediction errors that keep motivation high and maintain focus over extended periods. Without this, even meaningful goals can feel demotivating if progress is slow or unclear. Dopamine also interacts with attention circuits in the prefrontal cortex, amplifying the brain's ability to concentrate on tasks that are aligned with a reward signal. When dopamine is released, neural networks responsible for focus become more active, allowing you to sustain attention and resist distractions. This is why motivation and focus are so tightly linked. Without a clear signal that an effortful action has value, attention is prone to wander. Structuring your tasks to include frequent markers of progress not only enhances dopamine signaling, but also strengthens the neural circuits underlying sustained focus. The modern environment, however, poses challenges to dopamine regulation. High-frequency, low-effort rewards, like social media notifications, rapid news cycles, or constant messaging, create repeated bursts of dopamine that are not tied to meaningful effort. Over time, this can desensitize the brain to dopamine, making it harder to feel motivated by tasks that require sustained work. This is one reason why deep work can feel challenging in a world designed for constant stimulation. Limiting exposure to these quick-hit rewards preserves dopamine sensitivity, allowing your brain to respond more strongly to tasks that matter and maintain attention for longer durations. Intentional management of dopamine also involves balancing effort and reward. Tasks that are too easy fail to generate sufficient dopamine, leading to boredom and disengagement. Tasks that are excessively difficult without clear markers of progress can trigger frustration and a drop in motivation. The optimal approach involves calibrating the difficulty of your tasks so that progress is noticeable, effort is required, and the brain's reward circuits are consistently engaged. This creates a feedback loop where effort and achievement reinforce each other, enhancing both focus and productivity. Timing of dopamine release matters as well. Starting work with a clear goal and measurable steps primes your dopamine system to respond immediately, increasing engagement and sustaining effort. Over time, consistently structuring tasks to produce small, predictable rewards trains the brain to seek progress and maintain high levels of motivation. This deliberate alignment of effort, progress, and reward is foundational for improving focus, boosting productivity, and sustaining high-performance states throughout the day. Focus and productivity are heavily influenced by the visual system because where your eyes go often directs where your attention follows. The brain uses visual input as a primary signal for allocating cognitive resources, meaning that controlling your gaze and visual environment can profoundly impact your ability to concentrate. Narrowing your visual field, such as focusing on a single screen, page, or object, signals to the brain that a specific task requires priority, which enhances activation and attention-related neural circuits. Conversely, a cluttered visual environment or constantly shifting gaze can fragment attention, increasing cognitive load and reducing the depth and duration of focus. The prefrontal cortex, which governs goal-directed behavior and attention, integrates visual signals to determine where and how to allocate mental effort. When visual input is concentrated, neural activity in the prefrontal cortex becomes more coherent, supporting sustained attention and efficient information processing. This is why simple environmental adjustments, such as clearing your workspace, removing unnecessary objects, or minimizing on-screen distractions, can dramatically improve focus. By reducing irrelevant visual stimuli, you allow the brain to concentrate resources on the task at hand rather than constantly evaluating competing sensory inputs. Eye movements themselves are closely tied to cognitive processing. Rapid scanning of the environment engages alertness circuits, keeping you responsive but reducing your ability to maintain sustained attention on complex tasks. Fixating on a single point or object, however, allows the brain to enter a deeper state of cognitive engagement. This is particularly important for tasks that require problem-solving, analytical thinking, or creative output, as these processes demand uninterrupted neural activity. Even brief visual interruptions, such as glancing at notifications or moving between multiple screens, can reset attentional circuits, making it harder to regain focus. Another key aspect of visual attention is anticipation and expectation. When the brain predicts where meaningful visual information will appear, it can pre-activate relevant circuits, enhancing processing efficiency. This principle underlies techniques like highlighting key sections of a document, organizing information spatially, or designing work environments to guide the eye toward relevant cues. By intentionally structuring your visual environment to match the demands of the task, you reduce cognitive effort and improve the speed and quality of your focus. Lighting and color also influence visual attention and productivity. Bright, natural light tends to increase alertness and reduce fatigue, while dim or poorly lit environments can slow neural processing and impair focus. Certain colors, particularly those that contrast with background elements, can draw attention effectively and help maintain engagement. The combination of these factors highlights that attention is not purely an internal process. It is deeply shaped by external visual conditions and the way the brain interprets sensory input. The interaction between vision and internal states further impacts productivity. High levels of stress or fatigue can reduce the brain's ability to filter irrelevant visual information, leading to distraction and decreased efficiency. Conversely, when the brain is well-rested and in an optimal arousal state, focused visual input can amplify attention and improve task performance. Training the brain to maintain narrow, purposeful visual focus is therefore both a matter of environmental control and internal regulation, allowing deeper engagement and sustained productivity over time. Biological rhythms play a critical role in determining focus and productivity because the brain operates in cycles of alertness and fatigue that are influenced by circadian timing, sleep quality, and hormonal fluctuations. The prefrontal cortex, which governs attention, decision-making, and goal-directed behavior, functions optimally during periods when arousal and energy levels are naturally high. Attempting high-demand cognitive work outside these windows often leads to reduced efficiency, slower processing, and increased susceptibility to distractions. Understanding and aligning tasks with these natural rhythms allows the brain to allocate resources more effectively and sustain attention for longer durations. Circadian rhythms regulate the release of hormones such as cortisol and melatonin, which influence alertness and sleepiness. Cortisol peaks shortly after waking, providing a natural surge in arousal and attention, which makes the morning hours ideal for tasks requiring deep focus. In contrast, melatonin gradually increases in the evening, preparing the body and brain for rest, which is why late-night attempts at cognitively demanding work often feel more effortful and less productive. Aligning work schedules with these biological peaks enables the brain to perform optimally without requiring excessive compensatory effort or energy. Sleep quality is another cornerstone of productivity and focus. During sleep, the brain consolidates memories, clears metabolic waste, and recalibrates neural circuits responsible for attention and executive function. Insufficient or fragmented sleep impairs the prefrontal cortex, reducing the brain's ability to maintain sustained focus, manage distractions, and execute complex tasks. Sleep deprivation also alters dopamine and acetylcholine signaling, which are essential for motivation and attentional control. Consequently, even brief periods of inadequate sleep can significantly decrease productivity and increase cognitive errors. Strategically timing tasks around natural peaks and troughs in alertness enhances both efficiency and the capacity for sustained concentration. High-demand tasks that require creativity, analytical reasoning, or decision-making are best scheduled during periods of peak focus, typically mid-morning or early afternoon, depending on individual chronotypes. Lower demand or routine tasks can be allocated to times when alertness naturally dips, allowing the brain to conserve energy while still maintaining productivity. By working in harmony with biological rhythms, you reduce mental fatigue and maximize the return on cognitive effort. Hydration, nutrition, and light exposure also modulate circadian and alertness systems. Adequate hydration maintains optimal neural signaling and prevents fatigue, while consistent, nutrient-rich meals support steady energy levels and neurotransmitter production. Exposure to natural light in the morning reinforces circadian alignment, increases alertness, and enhances mood, all of which improve focus. Conversely, irregular light exposure, especially from screens late at night, can disrupt these rhythms and impair attention, making it harder to sustain productivity during the following day. Understanding and respecting these rhythms enables deliberate scheduling and environmental adjustments that enhance cognitive performance. By aligning demanding work with periods of peak alertness, ensuring high-quality sleep, and supporting circadian cues through lifestyle practices, the brain operates at its most efficient state. This alignment reduces the need for compensatory effort, improves sustained attention, and allows for higher quality work output over longer periods, creating a foundation for consistent productivity and improved cognitive performance. Breaks are a fundamental, yet often overlooked, component of enhancing focus and productivity because the brain is not designed to sustain maximum attention indefinitely. Prolonged cognitive engagement without rest leads to mental fatigue, reduced processing efficiency, and increased susceptibility to distraction. Short, intentional breaks allow neural circuits responsible for attention, working memory, and decision-making to recover, restoring the brain's capacity to maintain high-quality focus. When applied strategically, breaks do not reduce productivity. They enhance it by preventing cognitive depletion and maintaining sustained performance over time. The prefrontal cortex, which governs sustained attention and executive function, consumes significant metabolic resources during periods of deep focus. As neural activity continues, glucose and oxygen utilization increase, while neurotransmitter levels, particularly dopamine and acetylcholine, gradually decline. This decline reduces the brain's ability to filter irrelevant stimuli and maintain task engagement. Taking short breaks provides an opportunity for these resources to replenish, which is why even brief periods of rest can improve subsequent focus and mental clarity. Regularly scheduled breaks also prevent attentional lapses from accumulating, preserving cognitive efficiency throughout the workday. The nature of breaks is critical to their effectiveness. Passive breaks, such as checking social media or browsing the internet, often fail to allow full cognitive recovery because they continue to engage attention circuits in a shallow or fragmented manner. Active breaks that involve low-effort activities, such as stretching, walking, or brief mindfulness exercises, are more effective because they disengage the neural circuits used for the primary task while maintaining a state of alertness. Eye-movement exercises or looking at distant objects can reduce visual strain and reset attentional focus, particularly for individuals who spend long periods in front of screens. These practices help restore the brain's capacity for sustained, high-quality work without inducing mental stagnation. Timing and duration of breaks also matter. Neuroscience research suggests that the brain performs optimally when focused work is alternated with short breaks approximately every 60 to 90 minutes, which aligns with ultradian rhythms of alertness and cognitive performance. During these cycles, attentional capacity naturally fluctuates, and attempting to push through dips in focus without rest can reduce the quality of output. Structured breaks allow for a natural recovery that aligns with the brain's inherent rhythms, enabling more consistent performance throughout the day. Breaks also serve a psychological function by reducing perceived effort and maintaining motivation. Continuous work without respite can increase mental resistance and fatigue, making even routine tasks feel more effortful. By consciously scheduling breaks, the brain anticipates periodic relief, which helps maintain engagement and lowers stress. This expectation of recovery creates a feedback loop where focused effort is more sustainable, enhancing overall productivity and resilience to distractions. Incorporating breaks into a structured workflow maximizes both cognitive and motivational efficiency. The combination of deliberate timing, restorative activities, and alignment with natural attention cycles enables the brain to sustain deeper focus for longer periods. By understanding that mental recovery is an active component of productivity rather than a passive interruption, you can train the brain to maintain higher performance, reduce fatigue, and consist stress and internal state play a central role in determining focus and productivity because the brain's capacity to sustain attention is highly sensitive to arousal levels. The prefrontal cortex, which governs executive function, working memory, and goal-directed behavior, operates optimally within a specific range of arousal. Moderate stress or alertness increases neural activation, enhances focus, and sharpens decision-making. However, chronic or excessive stress can overwhelm the prefrontal cortex, impairing cognitive control, increasing distractibility, and reducing the ability to maintain sustained attention. Understanding how to regulate internal state is therefore essential for optimizing productivity. The nervous system responds to stress through the release of catecholamines, such as norepinephrine and epinephrine, which prepare the body and brain for action. In moderate amounts, these chemicals heighten awareness, increase alertness, and improve the brain's ability to filter irrelevant information. This creates a state in which attention is more selective, and mental resources are allocated efficiently to the task at hand. In contrast, excessive stress leads to overactivation of the amygdala, the brain's threat detection center, which can hijack attention away from task-relevant goals. When this occurs, the prefrontal cortex is effectively suppressed, reducing executive function and impairing the ability to plan, organize, and sustain effort. Techniques that regulate internal state can restore prefrontal cortex function and improve focus. Controlled breathing, for example, modulates the autonomic nervous system, reducing sympathetic overactivation and promoting parasympathetic activity, which induces calm and improves attention. Even brief periods of diaphragmatic breathing can lower cortisol levels, enhance oxygenation of neural tissue, and increase the brain's capacity to sustain goal-directed activity. Physical movement, such as short walks or stretching, similarly regulates arousal by reducing stress hormone accumulation, improving circulation, and providing a brief reset for attentional networks. Environmental and contextual factors also influence internal state. Noise, lighting, temperature, and social interruptions can increase cognitive load and stress, reducing focus. Optimizing these factors through minimizing distractions, using ergonomically designed spaces, and creating predictable routines supports a stable internal state conducive to sustained attention. Cognitive techniques, such as visualization or setting clear intentions before starting a task, can further prepare the brain to enter a focused state and reduce susceptibility to stress-induced distraction. The brain's internal state interacts with motivation and reward systems to regulate productivity. Stress can either enhance or diminish dopamine signaling depending on intensity and context. Moderate arousal increases dopamine release, supporting engagement and sustained effort, whereas chronic stress blunts dopamine responsiveness, reducing motivation and focus. By intentionally managing internal state, you maintain an optimal balance where attention networks are fully active and the brain's reward circuits reinforce effort rather than being suppressed by fatigue or anxiety. Developing awareness of your internal state allows for proactive adjustment of focus strategies. Recognizing when arousal is too low or too high enables the use of techniques such as breathing exercises, short physical activity, or environmental adjustments to return to an optimal range. Over time, these practices train the brain to enter high-focus states more efficiently and recover more quickly from periods of distraction or stress. Consistently regulating internal state enhances sustained attention, increases productivity, and supports long-term cognitive resilience, making it a foundational element in the science of focus and performance. Stress and internal state play a central role in determining focus and productivity because the brain's capacity to sustain attention is highly sensitive to arousal levels. The prefrontal cortex, which governs executive function, working memory, and goal-directed behavior, operates optimally within a specific range of arousal. Moderate stress or alertness increases neural activation, enhances focus, and sharpens decision-making. However, chronic or excessive stress can overwhelm the prefrontal cortex, impairing cognitive control, increasing distractibility, and reducing the ability to maintain sustained attention. Understanding how to regulate internal state is therefore essential for optimizing productivity. The nervous system responds to stress through the release of catecholamines, such as norepinephrine and epinephrine, which prepare the body and brain for action. In moderate amounts, these chemicals heighten awareness, increase alertness, and improve the brain's ability to filter irrelevant information. This creates a state in which attention is more selective and mental resources are allocated efficiently to the task at hand. In contrast, excessive stress leads to overactivation of the amygdala, the brain's threat detection center, which can hijack attention away from task-relevant goals. When this occurs, the prefrontal cortex is effectively suppressed, reducing executive function and impairing the ability to plan, organize, and sustain effort. Techniques that regulate internal state can restore prefrontal cortex function and improve focus. Controlled breathing, for example, modulates the autonomic nervous system, reducing sympathetic overactivation and promoting parasympathetic activity, which induces calm and improves attention. Even brief periods of diaphragmatic breathing can lower cortisol levels, enhance oxygenation of neural tissue, and increase the brain's capacity to sustain goal-directed activity. Physical movement, such as short walks or stretching, similarly regulates arousal by reducing stress hormone accumulation, improving circulation, and providing a brief reset for attentional networks. Environmental and contextual factors also influence internal state. Noise, lighting, temperature, and social interruptions can increase cognitive load and stress, reducing focus. Optimizing these factors through minimizing distractions, using ergonomically designed spaces, and creating predictable routines supports a stable internal state conducive to sustained attention. Cognitive techniques, such as visualization or setting clear intentions before starting a task, can further prepare the brain to enter a focused state and reduce susceptibility to stress-induced distraction. The brain's internal state interacts with motivation and reward systems to regulate productivity. Stress can either enhance or diminish dopamine signaling depending on intensity and context. Moderate arousal increases dopamine release, supporting engagement and sustained effort, whereas chronic stress blunts dopamine responsiveness, reducing motivation and focus. By intentionally managing internal state, you maintain an optimal balance where attention networks are fully active and the brain's reward circuits reinforce effort rather than being suppressed by fatigue or anxiety. Developing awareness of your internal state allows for proactive adjustment of focus strategies. Recognizing when arousal is too low or too high enables the use of techniques such as breathing exercises, short physical activity, or environmental adjustments to return to an optimal range. Over time, these practices train the brain to enter high-focus states more efficiently and recover more quickly from periods of distraction or stress. Consistently regulating internal state enhances sustained attention, increases productivity, and supports long-term cognitive resilience, making it a foundational element in the science of focus and performance. Ultimately, mastering internal state and stress regulation empowers you to control the quality of your attention and effort. By learning to recognize and adjust your arousal, you create the conditions for consistent, high-level focus, which not only improves productivity, but also strengthens the brain's ability to maintain performance under pressure and adapt to challenges over time.